Hi, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon today. We have people probably from a variety of places, so I'm not exactly sure what time zone you are on, but I do want to thank you for joining us to today's presentation. My name is Leslie. I am an educator located in Georgia, but I am also a mom. Just as a couple of reminders, everybody's audio is muted. So if you have any questions, please feel free to type them in the chat and we will address all of the questions hopefully during our presentation or at the very end. We have a couple of questions that we will ask throughout our presentation, so if you will join in and give us your feedback as we move through. So let's go ahead and get started with today's presentation. There are some pretty amazing things that you can do with Smart Buddies, and these are just a couple of the things that we're going to do. We can code shapes to be used with our Smart Buddies. We can also use our Smart Buddies for mazes. As you can see, the video there in the middle, Zara, that's the particular character's name. She is doing a maze. And then on the very end, Zara is doing a dance on her Smart Buddy. So there are so many things that you can do. Let's go ahead and get started so that you can learn some new things today. Our very first quiz, if you would, just go ahead and answer, what would be the most fun for you? And I'll give you a moment to answer so that we can figure out how to best meet the needs of our participants. There are 4 choices. Just learning to code is fun is one of them. Learning how to make Smart Buddies dance, creating mazes and coding my Smart Buddies to go through it. And then our last choice is being challenged by really tough coding projects. If you will go ahead and mark one of those choices, then that will give us some direction for us to go with future webinars. Okay, so I think we've had enough time for today's poll. Our lesson today is going to be amazing in that it is going to show you how you can potentially save $125 million. Yes, I did say $125 million. And that is simply by learning how to code distance and turns. You're probably wondering, how do those things equate to saving $125 million? Let me give you an example. In 1999, NASA built the Mars orbiter and they sent it out into space. Well, there was one slight problem. The people who coded it, there were a couple of different groups working on the project. One group coded it using the metric system, which is what everybody in the world uses except the United States, and another group used the imperial system. Well, when that rover was out in space, it ended up not exactly going in the direction it was supposed to, so it ended up burning to the tune of $125 million that they lost on that particular project. We don't want to do that, so what we're going to do is we're going to figure out how not to make that same mistake with our Smart Buddies, because if your parents actually purchase one and you do what you see here and you don't pay attention, that's $100 that just rolled off the countertop, and your parents will not at all be happy about that. So let's figure out how to do that. On the app, you will see that you have the way to click on the gear icon for settings, and you want to choose either metric or imperial, and then that will make sure that you are going the right distance in each of your coding activities. In the United States, we are using imperial. Here's our next quiz, and guys, school may be out for some of you, and some of you may still be in school. Nothing we're doing today is being graded, so please answer these questions to the best of your ability. Here's this next question. How much coding have you done? If you're a beginner, that's fine. If you are an expert, that's fine. Or if you're somewhere in the middle, that's fine as well. And our choices, this will be my first time. I've done a little, I'm pretty good, and I am a pro. So if you will mark the appropriate response for your particular situation, we would very much appreciate it. Okay, we're getting some good responses. Thank you for that. What we want you to know is that coding is for everyone. And we saw your responses, and about some of you said that you were a beginner, and some of you are really good, and some of you are there in the middle. But coding is for everyone. And that's what you're going to learn when we are doing the Smart Buddies, that everybody can code. And we're going to talk about a couple of different kinds of coding that you can do with the Smart Buddy. As you can see here, we're talking about the drawing tool. You see the Smart Buddy? I believe that Zara is following the line. You can do that there on the app, and then you can also do it on the floor. You're probably saying, what is coding? Coding is a language that we use to talk to computers. For instance, if you were to go to France, you might want to pick up a couple of phrases so that you could communicate with the people who live there. You want to be able to communicate with the French people. We want to be able to communicate with our computers, so we use coding. Let's talk about the different kinds of coding languages that we have. We have the line, which you just saw an example of. We also have what you see here is JavaScript, which is a little confusing. We have Python, SQL, PHP, and the one that we're going to focus on is Scratch or block coding. And you see an example on your screen right in front of you. The basics of block coding, you have your commands and you also have variables. With your command, the first one, speed, how fast do you want to program your SIGI? The next one, your move, which direction and how far. So we see here, move forward 10 inches. And then the next variable, which direction and how much to turn, and that's in degrees. So we're going to turn right 90 degrees, a radius of 0 inches.
So, and Leslie, I just saw somebody raising their hand. If they could hold the questions to the end, we'll definitely get back to everybody with questions, okay? And we'll just move on from there.
Thank you. Here's our first project, the Dizzy Derby. Maria, and she is another one of our characters, we have 8. Maria wants to practice her turns for the big Dizzy Derby coming up soon. And she wants a code that's going to include 2 things. She has to have at least 4 or more turns, and she has to go back to the place where she first started. Let's see how we can make that happen. But before we do that, let's talk about pseudocode. Does anybody know what pseudocode is? Here's another pop quiz. What do you think that it means? We have our choices, and if you would, please mark the appropriate response to see if anybody knows what pseudocode means. Are we good with our responses? Funny coding, fake coding, code that does not work. And our last choice, that is how you say coding in German. Okay, we've wrapped up that pop quiz. And we will talk about the fact that pseudocoding means fake coding. And it's not fake in that it means that it's not real. It means that we want to plan our code on paper before we actually start it. For this particular project that Maria wants to do for the Dizzy Derby, remember, she has to have 4 more turns, and she also has to go back to the place where she started. We will take our piece of paper, get our pencil, and begin. We're going to mark an X, and then remember, she has to have 4 turns. She's going forward 10 inches. She's going to make that turn. She's going to go move again, make another turn until she gets back to the point of origination. That's what we would call fake coding. We have our move forward, we have our turning, and then our next variable, it's all there. Block coding. This is our first project. Remember we said you had to have the 4 more turns, and she also had to be, she had to end up back where she started. You can see that on our video. When you do this at home, it doesn't matter if you have more than 4 turns. You can do this however you best want it. We have Maria there on the screen. She just did the exact thing that we programmed. So if you have it on the floor, you can do it on the floor, or you can do it on the app. And here we see her on the floor. So you can just make this work however best you want it to work. I actually believe that's Theo that we have there.
That is Theo. We switched him out.
That's okay. Again, we have diverse characters and they look like a lot of the students that we serve. So that's one of the things that I like about our Smart Buddies. All you need to know for this week's challenge are in some tutorials, and those tutorials are 1, 2, and 4. All of the tutorials are found in the app. And I'm going to turn it over to my buddy Martin, and he is going to walk us through the tutorials.
Well, thank you very much, Leslie. Yeah, we're going to start. There's 4 tutorials. If you learn everything that's in those, you will be able to do all of the challenges that we're presenting. And we're just going to kick it right off with the first, second, and 4th tutorial. I encourage everybody to do 3rd as well, but we're going to do those 3. Okay, all you need for this week's challenge is to learn the commands, which you'll find in the Learn section of our app. That's where we have our tutorials. So you click onto the Learn section. You go to Tutorial 1, and for example, in Tutorial 1, it says to drive the Ziggy 20 inches forward at 25% speed using the Move command. And a hint, always start with the Speed command. And that's for all of the program that we do. So we say, okay, when we've got this. And don't worry, we can always go back to it and see it again if we've forgotten what it was by hitting the question mark. So, okay. So we've got to move 20 inches. First, we have to do our speed. So we go and grab our speed block. We drag it in. It's supposed to be at 25%. So we tap on the 50 right there. Change it to 25. Then we drag our forward command in. We have to go to 20 inches. So we click on the number. Use our keyboard to change to 20 inches, press OK. Then we'll show it on the screen, and then we can check and see, yes, we did it correct. Very good. Now moving on to the second tutorial, and it says drive the Ziggy 20 inches backward at 25% speed using the Move Backward command. Okay, so let's try that. So again, speed block first. Again, we're changing it to 25% speed. And then we're taking the move block, and we're changing 2 of the variables. First, the forward, changing to backward, and 10 inches, we change to 20 inches. Let's take a look at it on screen, and then let's check it. And again, we got it correct. Very good. While we think you should do all the tutorials at home, we're going to skip from tutorial number 2 to tutorial number 4. I'm going to tutorial number 4 now. So start at 25% speed, make a 90-degree left turn using the turn command, make a 2-second pause, and thereafter a 180-degree right turn. So we have 2 new commands here. We're introducing the turn command and the pause command. So let's give this a shot. So always starting with our speed block, and it says to set the speed for 25. Then we're bringing in the turn block, and that's a left-hand turn of 90 degrees. And then we're to pause, and then we bring in another turn block But in this case, the turn should be to the right, and it should be 180 degrees. So we're setting to 180. So when we think we have it right, we hit show on screen. And let's see. Oh, looks like I made a mistake. So then we need to go back and check our code and see if we missed anything. And when I look, I see that on the pause, I left it to 1. It was supposed to be a pause of 2 seconds. So I go back in, change it to 2 seconds. Okay, let's show it on the screen. There's the pause. And now let's see. So we got it right. So no worries when you're doing this at home. Go through all the tutorials. If you make mistakes, you'll get hints and you get chances to do it again. And that's it.
Okay, thank you, Martin, for that. If there are any questions, please let me check the chat box in our Q&A. Okay, it says, what is the software we need to download to do block coding? For this particular one, we are using the app, and our app is available in the Chrome store. It's available in iTunes, and you can also do it on a Chromebook. So we are using the Smart Buddies app, and you don't necessarily have to have the Smart Buddy, the Siggy and the character to do this. So you can do the block coding with our app. I hope that's what you were talking about. There are some other apps, but for webinars that we're doing, all of this is used in the Smart Buddies app. The question has been posed, when did you start coding? Me personally, I used to teach English, and then I think 6 or 7 years ago, I became an instructional technology coach. And one of the things that we really push in our district is Hour of Code. And to be honest, until I became an instructional technology coach, I didn't know about coding, but we go out to all of our schools and we work with our students K through 12 on coding. So that's when I started. And now that I have a 7-year-old son, he is really interested in coding because he likes playing video games. And I told him that he needed to learn how to make his own video games because the Bank of Mom cannot afford to keep up with his demands. So we are doing a lot of coding at our house now. Do we have any other questions? These are good questions. I like this. Okay, well, I do believe those are all the questions that we have for today. And we would love to see you again next week. Next week's title is Shape Up, and we are going to do something different and fun. And we, again, hope that you will join us. And thank you so very much for your time. It has been a pleasure to chat with you today. Thank you.